I'm so excited to talk about my podcast today. I can't believe that it's 2 years old. Seriously, I really am just like shocked and surprised that it's 2 years old. 80 episodes on Monday. Monday will be the 80th episode. And yeah, it's just like, it's amazing and awesome and wonderful. And there's like almost 150,000 downloads. I mean, when I first started, I didn't even know what a download is. So to think that 150,000 people have listened to my podcast, I mean, that's pretty freaking cool. So I wanted to start by just telling you a little bit about my podcast and how I got started. There are some people who comment and send me messages and they say things like, well, you can't be an INFJ because you have a podcast and you do videos all the time and you do live videos, and INFJs aren't that way. And that's just so not true. It's not easy for me. It's easier than what it used to be, but it's not easy for me to put myself out there, for sure. So when I first started, I started my blog and my Instagram account in December of 2018. And by June, I think it was June, maybe late May, early June of 2019, I had taken this class. It was like a free workshop online from one of my favorite people. Her name is Katie Heller. She has this amazing podcast. And she was talking about how to start a business and then also how to like make money with your business, which is the workshop that I wanted. But the day that I was available was a workshop about starting a podcast. And I was like, I don't want to start a podcast, but I love Katie, so I'll listen to what she's saying. And so by the end of like an hour and a half of her talking, I was like, I'm going to start a podcast and it's going to be so amazing. It's going to be wonderful. So I was like super excited, and I came up with the name pretty quickly. I remember the name of it is The Quiet Ones. I think it was a name that I already had that I was thinking about using for something else. But I was like, this is perfect. It's going to be like so awesome. And, so I go home to record the first episode, and it took me a while because I'm like, okay, do I need like a special microphone? Do I need like, what kind of software do I need? I used to edit videos a long time ago, but I hadn't done it recently, so I forgot how to do it, and I didn't want to be on video initially. So I was like, okay, I'll just do audio. And so I wrote out word for word every single thing that I was going to say in the first episode because I was so nervous. I knew that I couldn't just talk, right? So I'm like, okay, I wrote out everything word for word, and I was trying to record it and read it and make it sound like I wasn't reading it. and I wasn't really sure how to edit it either. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can like record it without having to edit it, which didn't work at all. That puts like tons and tons of pressure on you. Like it has to be perfect. And when you're recording, like for the first time or second time, you're like hypercritical of how you pronounce words and how you talk. And like, you've never noticed that before. But now all of a sudden you notice that you're not pronouncing words correctly, and some of your words sort of like slur together, and it's like, oh, this is terrible. So basically the first episode was 30 minutes long, and it took me like probably 4 hours to record it. And like, I was so exhausted by the time I was done recording it. I'm like, I don't know if there's ever going to be a second episode because like that was torture. So then the next night I was like, okay, I'm going to edit it now, right? And figuring out the editing software should have been easy, but it wasn't. And it took me like 6 hours to record it. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get out an episode every single week because this is a lot of time. This is like 11 hours just, and that doesn't even include the writing time that I wrote out everything. And then I had to do graphics and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is insane. I mean, surely it has to be easier than this. The first season, there were 17 episodes, and I think just two of them were interviews, and the rest of them I did by myself. So, they weren't all that bad, but the first season was definitely rough, because it was like, I was just so critical of what I was saying, and I was just super nervous, and I mean, it was like fighting through every single episode, basically. So every time somebody tells me, hey, I listened to your podcast and I love it, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I'm so glad, because when I was recording the episodes, I was so worried. Like, that was my biggest fear, to put something out in the world that wasn't very good. I don't like disappointing people, and so I wanted it to be really good and a lot of information that would help you guys so much. One of the other reasons that I started it, the reason that I started my blog and my Instagram account, was I was struggling. I was struggling really bad. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I didn't know where to find help. I was going to see a counselor. I had several doctors I was going to, and I know that medication works for a lot of people, but it also didn't work. It doesn't work for some people, and it didn't work for me. So I was like, okay, I have to figure out something else. I have to figure out some other way to feel better, to feel happier, to have confidence. And I mean, I grew up thinking that some people had self-love and some people didn't. And I was just one of the unlucky people who didn't have self-love. And I also grew up thinking that some people were just super happy and some people weren't happy. And I wasn't happy. I was just like here. And, I have lots of really, really big emotions, but I don't like to show them to anybody. So even when I'm really happy, I'm not like jumping around, super excited. I don't get like super animated usually. So I just thought that, I don't have a lot of happiness on a day-to-day level, on a day-to-day basis. So maybe I'm just one of those people who isn't happy. And so I had like a lot of these kinds of issues, and I was like, okay, I have to figure out how to fix this, because this can't be it. This can't be everything. There has to be more to life than this. Surely somebody has the answers out there, right? So I turned to different things, like I started doing yoga, which helped a lot with my depression, and I started using different supplements, which helped me sleep, which was one of the big problems that I had at the time, and it's kind of a consistent problem for me. I have a difficult time sleeping, but I've noticed that when I can sleep, then I feel a lot better. So it was kind of like, it started this process that has been 6 years now of me trying to figure out how to feel better and trying to figure out how to be a better person and how to push myself to accomplish the goals that I want to accomplish. One of those things was I wanted to be a writer. I always had this idea in my head that I would be a writer, and I was terrible at spelling when I was in school, and I didn't do very well in English. I was a lot better at math, and so I was just like, well, how can you be a writer if you can't spell? How can you be a writer if you don't know all the things about sentence structure? And I would read things that other people wrote, and I was like, oh, that sounds so awesome, but I could never write anything like that. And so I let those beliefs hold me back. And I would start a blog like every December, January, and I would write a post that would take me forever to write because I was just struggling with self-confidence. And then I would post it, and then I would sit there and stare at it and be like, why is nobody reading it? And then after like an hour of torturing myself, I would take it down and be like, nope, see, nobody wants to hear my story. Nobody cares about what I'm talking about. I'm a terrible writer. I knew it. And the thing is that, one, I wasn't giving anybody enough time to find it. Two, I wasn't promoting it anywhere. So people don't just randomly find your blog, right? And especially if it has like a free domain name, people aren't going to find it. If it's like infjwoman.wordpress.com, people aren't going to find it. So I realized that I needed more self-confidence in order to write and to put my stuff out there and to say, I'm just going to let it sit there and I'm going to wait for people to find it, and it's going to be okay, and it's totally fine if nobody ever reads it. And that was the thing that changed when I started my blog. It was like, okay, it doesn't matter if anybody reads it. I'm going to share my story. I'm going to share what's helped me. I'm going to talk about my personality type, because understanding my personality has changed my life. And I want to help other people do the same thing. Like, I want to help them be happier. I want to help them make the changes that they want to make. I want to help them with everything that they're struggling with in their life. And I know that understanding is the first step to that. And so I started writing, and I made a commitment to myself. I'm going to write every single week. And it changed a lot for me, because it was like I made a promise to myself and I kept it, which is a huge thing. And now I'm getting practice every single week, putting myself out there. And in the beginning, when I was hitting publish, it was scary. And it was like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but I do want to do it at the same time. So I would hit publish, and then I would go walk away and do something else. Like, just forget about it. Don't worry about it. Don't look at the analytics. Just hit publish and go do something else. So I did that for a while. I did that for almost 6 months before I started my podcast. And I was like diving back into all of the, I don't have any confidence. I don't know what I'm doing. This is a huge challenge for me. So it was a difficult feeling, but it was also familiar. And it was like, oh, I know how to do this. Like, I've already done this before. So now I know how to do it, and I can do it. It'll be easier, and it'll be a little bit better this time. So it was more difficult putting out audio, right? Because like I said, pronunciation with words and stumbling over what you're saying and wanting it to be perfect. Another one of the things that I did. I spent hours editing the podcasts, because if you sit too close to a microphone, or if your microphone is turned up too high, you get a lot of breathing noises in your podcast. So like every time you take a breath, even if you're in the middle of a sentence and you pause and you take a breath and it's too loud, then you can hear that. And like, I spent hours obsessing over those breath noises. So I took them all out. And then somebody commented that my podcast sounded weird because it sounded like I wasn't breathing. And I was like, oh, like, okay, well, I guess I need to breathe, right? So, plus it helped because I'm like, okay, that's like, I'm done obsessing over that. That was just a phase. Thankfully, I can move through it. It actually helped me later when I moved into season 2. There was a friend of mine who contacted me and said, hey, I know a bunch of INFJs and INFPs. Would you like to interview them? And I was like, I remember seeing the email and sitting there like staring at it for like a week, because I didn't really know how to respond. I mean, my first response was, yes, that would be so awesome. But then my second response is like, I don't know how to interview people. Like, what am I going to say? And these are people that I don't know, and I don't like people that I don't know. And what if it's weird? And like, I mean, I just, I don't know. This is another icky thing that I don't really want to do, but I kind of really want to do. And so I think I may have even got 2 emails from him. Like, the first one may have been in December, and I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then another one, he sent me another one in January, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, we'll just have conversations, I'll just talk to people, ask them questions that I'm interested in, and, hopefully everybody else will be interested in those conversations too. And so that was how I got so many interviews. The majority of them. A couple of the people that I interviewed, I reached out to myself. And practically everybody said yes, which was also another shock for me. It was like, really? like, you really want to be on my podcast? That's cool. So, it was like this whole exercise in self-development and confidence and challenging yourself to do things that you don't know how to do. And really the driving factor behind all of it was I wanted to help. I wanted to help people who were in the same situation that I was, who had just learned about their personality type and were struggling with a lot of issues and just wanted to better themselves, wanted to have more confidence and more self-love, and to deal with a lot of the issues that they've dealt with. And to be able to walk through those better. It makes such a huge difference when you hear somebody say, I feel the same way. I've done the same thing. I've experienced the same thing. I've been through the same thing. I'm going through the same thing right now. It makes a huge difference. I was talking to one of my friends just the other night, and we have a lot of the same problems happening right now. And we're both kind of in the same place of like exploring our childhood and our past and healing from some of the trauma that we've experienced. And she's so much different than I am. She grew up in a different place. She's a different personality type. She's a different age. Her family is way different, but we have the same problems. And it was just like so nice to hear somebody else say, yes, I understand what you're saying. I've been there too. I know what that feels like. And it's nice to be able to help other people through my podcast, through Instagram, through all the different places. So I just wanted to talk real quickly about some of the podcast episodes that are my favorite. And maybe you guys can tell me in the comments, if you've listened to my podcast, what is your favorite episode? Which one did you like the most? Because I know Instagram sort of lags a little bit with the comments. So I actually put together a video that you can watch on my YouTube channel that has some clips from my favorite podcast episodes. So you should go check it out. I put the link in my stories so that you can find it right away. One of my favorite episodes was with a lady named Lauren White. I think she's from Australia. She's an INFJ and she's a sexologist. When she emailed me, I was like pure panic mode because she told me what she did. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to somebody. Like, what would I say? What if it's like weird? What if we had this weird, awkward conversation? But she's super sweet. She was so nice. And the podcast episode is fantastic. It's episode number 4 in season 2. I know my podcast episodes, they're numbered kind of weird because I started going by seasons, and then later I was like, no, let's just like build up each number over like whatever season. So if you go back to look for it, it's episode number 4 in season 2, and her name is Lauren White. And one of my favorite clips is I had read so many different places that people say that INFJs have a high sex drive. And I was like, that seems kind of weird because, we're pretty shy and quiet and kind of awkward when it comes to dating. At least I am, like, terribly awkward. And, we crave intimacy and we like, connection. So it seemed kind of, I don't know, it just didn't seem like it fit very well. So I asked her that question and she had a fantastic answer. Another one of my favorite episodes is a guy named Ross Rosenberg, who studies people who have narcissistic personalities. And he studies people who have what he calls self-love deficiency, which is basically being codependent. That's something that I've struggled with a lot. And hearing somebody else talk about it, and he even told me, I don't think it's in the interview, but he told me before the interview that he would identify as an INFJ as well. So, and that was kind of like a fun happenstance. Like, I didn't know what his personality type was when I asked him to be on my podcast. So that was nice. But he talked a lot about why we have self-love deficiency and where it comes from and how you can heal from it and how you can move past being around people who are narcissistic, which is, it's like this huge awakening when you realize what narcissism is, and when you start seeing the patterns in your life. And he talks about it from a perspective of people who are self-love deficient have a lot of romantic partners who are narcissistic. And I mentioned to him that I've had a lot of bosses who are narcissistic too. And he was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. He's like, but I guess that would fit too, because it makes sense that you're drawn to people who are narcissistic. So that was a really interesting episode as well. That was episode 5 in season 2. I think another one of the episodes that I put in there was episode 8 in season 2, which is with Olivia Powell, who is one of my friends. She's also an INFJ, and she talked about how INFJs can slay their side hustles. We talked a lot about what it means to be an INFJ and how you feel when you first figure out that you're an INFJ. And then we talked about how to start your own business and how to have confidence in your business and those types of things. That was episode 8 in season 2. Another one that's really good is Lauren Sapala. She was on episode 42. She talked a lot about how INFJs are most ourselves when we are making other people happy. How we like to chameleon, basically like change our personalities to fit the people that are around us. And a lot of people talk about that from a negative perspective, like it's something that you need to change and something that you shouldn't do. But she spoke about it from a different perspective, which I thought was really, really good. She doesn't think that it's something that you need to change. Obviously, there are different levels, right? So if you're constantly people-pleasing everybody and you're never getting anything for yourself, then that's a problem. But if it's just something that you're doing that makes other people comfortable and you still feel like yourself, then it's perfectly fine, because that's just part of who we are. Oh, the other episode that I wanted to mention too, which is one of my favorite, and the episode that has far more downloads than every other episode. I think this one by itself has like 35,000 downloads, just by itself. I interviewed Evan Carmichael, who is a master at YouTube. He has multiple channels and millions of followers. He's also an INFJ. And he talked about how to find your life's purpose. He wrote a book that's called Built to Serve, which is an amazing book that has a bunch of great exercises in it about how to find your purpose. And it was kind of funny how he got to be on my podcast. I was on Instagram one day just doing a live video answering people's questions, and he jumped on my Instagram. And so I was able to talk to him a little bit about like what it means to be an INFJ and how we organize our lives. And then I asked him, how do you find your purpose? And so then he talked a little bit about the process of finding your book, or the process of finding your purpose, and then his book, Built to Serve, as well. There are a couple of people that I like to lean on as mentors, people who have podcasts and videos and a lot of free information available. Evan is one of those people. He's a great resource if you want to believe in yourself more, if you want to start a business, if you want to learn how to put yourself out there, if you want to start a YouTube channel, or even if you just want to start an Instagram account like I did. He's a great resource for that kind of stuff. He has tons and tons of videos about believing in yourself. Kathy Heller is another one. She has a podcast called Don't Keep Your Day Job. Even if you're not interested in starting your own business, she's really good at things like self-love and believing in yourself and all of those kinds of things, which is half of the reason that I listen to her podcast, honestly. She's really, really good at that. So definitely go check out the video on my YouTube channel. I promised you guys a lot of prizes, and of course I don't have them in front of me right now. I have one of them, actually. Actually, I might. I just didn't make a stack of them. So I have some copies of my book, which is the INFJ User Guide. The copies that I have are hard copy, and you can't actually buy the hardcovers right now. You can only buy the paperback on Amazon. So I'm going to give some of those away. I think I'm probably going to do like 5 of them. And I have a couple of journals. So there's one that's Emily McDowell that I absolutely love. I think it's super cute. And it has all these cute little pages in it too with these sayings. I have tons of journals sitting around everywhere. So I thought, I like to write. Maybe you guys like to write too. Another one, I think it comes from Emily McDowell too, but it has an Elizabeth Gilbert quote on the front, which is super cute. And then I have a card deck. It's called the Super Attractor. Of course, Instagram is backwards, but it's a card deck from Gabby Bernstein. And it has all of these amazing quotes from her book. I think they're like quotes and affirmations and things from Super Attractor, which is an amazing, wonderful book. I post about them. I post some of them on my channel sometimes. So I'm going to give those away. The way that you can enter to win, because of course I need your address and all of that kind of stuff. So I made a submission form so that you can enter to win those, and I'll pick a winner tomorrow morning and post it, or pick 5 winners, I guess there will be. Oh, I forgot one other thing too. I am getting ready to launch a course that's going to be called This Is Me, which is about understanding yourself and gaining more confidence and understanding your past and healing from all of your trauma and stepping into your best, most confident self. The course is it's going to be about priced at around $1,000. And so I'm going to give away a scholarship to that course as well. So if you're interested, make sure that you sign up. And the link to sign up, of course, you would think I would be a little bit organized, right? Okay, so the link to sign up is infjwoman.com/podcast anniversary. And I'll put a link for it again in my stories so that you can go sign up. But again, there's 5 different prizes. Everybody's going to get a copy of my book, who wins. There's a couple different journals, a card deck, and then also the grand prize will also include a full scholarship to a course that I'm getting ready to launch that's called This Is Me. So make sure that you go sign up. You can sign up at infjwoman.com/podcast anniversary, and I will put the link in my stories. If you can't find the link, that's cool. Just send me a direct message and I'll send you the link directly. So, all right. And go check out the video that's on my YouTube channel as well. It has clips from each one of the podcast episodes that we talked about today, and it has a link to the full episodes. So if you want to listen to the full episodes, then you can find them all there. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate you. I'm glad that you love my podcast. Again, if you haven't listened to it, it's called The Quiet Ones. And I'm just going to see. I think I can switch the camera around. Ah, there. That's the thumbnail art for it, I guess. It's changed on Apple. This is Apple. See it there. It's changed on Apple. If you look at it though on your phone, it still has the old art on your phone. For some reason, Apple hasn't updated it yet. But anyway, it's called The Quiet Ones. So definitely go check it out. There's usually a link for it in my bio. I post about it every single week. New episodes come out on Monday. And if you hit subscribe, then you'll just get the new episodes automatically. and you don't have to go looking for a link every single week. So you just watched that video, and I'm sure you enjoyed it. If you want some more amazing information about INFJs, check out these videos right now. I'll see you there.